Well, good afternoon, everyone. And on part of our Rise and Build communication, I'm thrilled to be joined by John and Judy Swannock, who are our location pastors in Gainsborough, and Paul Blundell, who is our location pastor in Lincoln North. And for a few minutes, we're going to talk about the investment made over the past 12 months through Rise and Build in the planting of these two brilliant locations. So John and Judy first, I wonder if you could just give us a quick overview of the history of Gainsborough.
Yeah, we'd love to. Well, we started, Judy and I, on the academy for a year and had a brilliant time. And then in September 2019, we launched the location into Gainsborough. And we had a wonderful September. We had lots of people come, didn't we, to celebrate with us, and maybe a lot of you who were watching and listening came as well. We had a great celebration of starting in the town. And what was wonderful was that everybody who came really felt the presence of God, really felt God's favour over the town. And it was a fantastic meeting, wasn't it? That opening and sort of initial commissioning.
Yeah, I think the best thing was that it was the whole church was celebrating the plant out, and it was great that all locations got behind it and the whole church prayed the plant out. The whole church then came along and celebrated and supported us, and that was just incredible to see that. And we're still here, we're still going, and the church is still growing. And despite everything that's happened and despite the situations we find ourselves in, it is just wonderful to see God's hand, God's favour, and God's blessing on the family here.
I think one of the things that really blessed us when we started in September was all the messages that we received from everybody within Alive and all the other locations, showing their support, giving us words of encouragement, messages of hope. And it really felt as if the whole church was behind us. And it was a wonderful moment for us both, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we still read those, we still look at them. When you have moments and you kind of question, you just go back to those and thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because they really do mean an awful lot.
Yeah, and then from September we continued meeting. We were meeting in the town hall, which is in the centre of Gainsborough, and we met at 4:00, and we started to grow, which was fantastic. And we looked at doing an icing pot project, didn't we, with one of the local primary schools. And at that icing pot project, we had over 100 parents come, and we had 200 children, because we had to do 2 performances because there were so many. And it was just fantastic. And it was lovely to start making those connections in the community, meeting people in the town. And as a result of that, now, even at this present time, when we're ever in town, we often see people that saw us who will say hi and talk to us. And it really did make a lot of great connections for us.
That's so good. Well, let's pause the story there for a moment, because we'll come on to the last 12 months in a moment's time. But let's head over to Lincoln North for a moment. Paul, do you want to give us a little bit of a history of the launching and the starting point for Lincoln North as a location?
Yeah, well, Lincoln North's slightly younger in age, and it's great to hear those stories and the sense of momentum with them. And I think that in 2019, obviously, as these guys talked, Gainsborough launched. 2020 in September was Lincoln North. And I think following the success of Gainsborough really is the sense that we wanted to plant another location. I think what in the planning was then the sense of September was going to be the time we're going to launch this location. And then obviously the pandemic hit and things kind of changed slightly. But we still felt that was right to launch and go for the location in terms of it becoming a new thing and really launching. There is a sense for us of we've kind of launched and we've started this thing, but we're also holding out for this moment when we can meet and when we can kind of gather everyone together for what I call in my head the official launch. But the main launch was September last year, and we've launched with 14 life groups. With a couple of 100 people, and just with a real sense of buzz and excitement that as we go into the north of the city and establish something there for the city, then we're thinking north, central, south, just as we pray for the city, believe for God to move in Lincoln, just feels really, really positive and exciting. So it's only been a few months, but great days ahead.
That's amazing. And I'm just thinking, last year on Rise and Build weekend, we communicated around both locations, around the second year for Gainsborough, first year for Lincoln North, and people's investment over the last year has continued to go into the locations and continue to bear fruit. So it's been an interesting 12 months, I think, is the best term we can use. John and Judy, have you got a couple of stories of God's goodness, faithfulness extended? I know that it's been a kind of wonderful period of time, actually, within the life of the church in Gainsborough. So you got a couple of stories you'd like to tell of how the church has marched on over the last 12 months?
Yeah, when we first started the sort of location and meeting together, we wanted to make contact with some of the other church leaders, and in investigation of this, there was just a couple of ministers who met for coffee, and I asked if I could go along and join with them. And as a result of that, 8 to 12 months down the line, we've probably got 6 of the ministers in the town now who meet regularly. And there's a real sense of unity coming within those leaders. So much so that they've all agreed that we're going to be working with Cinnamon Trust, doing an action audit of provision in the town. And it's great that when there was very little going on, that just by connecting together as leaders of the churches, that we're now starting to get a shared vision of what the town could look like and what we would like it to look like, providing the support for people that live here. So that's just incredible how God takes something that started so small and he makes it grow and grow. And as you're just faithful in the small, God blesses you and things start to grow. And really, all of that wouldn't have been possible, would it?
No,
without the kindness and the generosity of Rise and Build, because it's that and everybody sowing into that has really helped us to be able to work into some of these great things that are happening.
I remember walking around some of the streets of Gainsborough and thinking, how on earth are we going to get through these doors? How on earth are we going to connect with these families? And what is absolutely incredible is that we've been able to partner with Love Your Neighbour. And as a result of partnering with Love Your Neighbour, we are now actually knocking on the doors of some of these families. We're working with them on a weekly basis. We're having conversations on the doorstep that are God-given moments where we're able to speak directly into their lives. Maybe they don't always realise that it's God, but it is. And, what is absolutely incredible over this lockdown period, there are some families that we've been visiting and, conversations like, I would not be here today if it hadn't have been for you guys knocking on the door each week. Wow. To me, are just incredible testimonies of the practicalities of showing God's love on the ground. We have that conversation quite regularly. We've been able to pray for some of our families, and they look at us a bit gone out sometimes. I think we're a bit strange, but the Holy Spirit works with what you give, doesn't he? And it's fantastic to actually just see them. And what is an absolute blessing is quite often these families or mums will come to the door, and their faces will be really kind of down and sad and depressed, and by the time we've finished they're laughing and smiling. And to me, that's just God's hand. That's God's hand in a practical way, touching people just where they're at.
We did spend a lot of time, didn't we, praying about how do we get into people's homes, not literally, but how do we make that contact? How do we get to speak with people? And when you cry out to God in desperation, sometimes God answers, and what seems immovable mountains are moved, and God does move mountains, and we've certainly seen that. Right. And we certainly sense that God's favour sits on our town.
John, Judy, amazing. And we are all with you. We're all together in this. And we love the stories that are coming out of all that's taking place in Gainsborough. Paul, obviously, the last few months have been establishing months for Lincoln North. But again, are there celebration stories through those initial months in the life of the location?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, firstly, John and Judy, I think you're just doing such an inspirational work there. Just celebrate that with you, because it's so important. And seeing the answers to those prayers, taking those prayers, and then actually God seeing the answers for them also inspires us, because we're thinking the same thing. How do we build relationships? How do we connect with people? But as you say, I mean, the reality is for us is that none of this would be possible without the Rise and Build finance. That's the reality of it. You can't launch new locations and do new things like this without the Rise and Build funding. And so just so grateful for that, really, that enables us to launch out and do the new things, because often you're kind of maintaining those things that we're doing, but to branch out and do new things often feels more difficult. So Rise and Build really enables us to do that. And so initially the first few months without being able to meet have been a bit more interesting, but we've really looked to establish the life groups and a few connection points that we've got. Having 14 life groups with 98% of those that have come to the North in those life groups feels really significant and important building block for us as a location. And we celebrate that just because people are connected, and that's what we want. People to feel at home, to know that they've got a place that they can build relationships and know Jesus and walk with one another even more. But then at the same time, we also want to think, how are we reaching out? How are we connecting with other people? And through the Love Your Neighbour scheme and Love Christmas, we really were able to connect with people for the first time. And I think it's around 45 families in the north of the city that were connected with parcels and presents. And one of the partnerships that we've been looking to establish and build on a little bit is with the Eden Project and the Message Trust at St Giles. And so 12 of the families there were specifically blessed through our partnership, because we were able to get John and the team there access to presents and to food and other stuff. And so that just felt really, really positive, that actually they're already doing this stuff. We don't need to try and muscle in, but we can partner together and we can bless an estate. And then through the Christmas Spectacular, then blessing a whole street and taking gifts out to them and presents and stuff. Just felt like, for me, like quite the beginning of what we want to do and where we want to be, and the kind of activities we want to be doing to bless people and to bring the good news of Jesus. And so it feels really exciting, feels embryonic. We're looking forward to a true launch. But at the same time, we're so grateful for the Rise and Build funding to be able to do so.
That's brilliant. And Rise and Build really is our church's opportunity to partner vision and resourcing together. In order to see vision take place, we have to resource that. We have to seek the resource of God, but also be part of the resourcing ourselves. So John and Judy, maybe a final statement, if you could talk, as you are now, talking to the church about this year's Rise and Build, an encouragement, but also a thanks for people's generosity.
Yeah, I mean, we really do, from the bottom of our hearts, and sincerely thank everybody, because actually we had a dream 3 years ago, and it's come to reality because of your kindness and your generosity and your giving. And we just want to thank you on behalf of everybody in Gainsborough for all of that. And we just pray that this year, that as we come out of this lockdown, that we see a bumper harvest and a Rise and Build offering that surpasses everything that's gone before. Because we just want to say that it really does matter and it really does count. And what you give does make a difference. And we're so grateful to you all for all that you've done to make this happen. And God will bless that, and he will make that grow, and he will make the location grow even more stronger. So thank you ever so much, everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Judy. And Paul, maybe a message from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, similar to John, I really echo that sense of just that deep gratitude. That, as I say, this wouldn't be possible without the giving and the generosity of so many people, of us joining together our hearts and minds. Now, we've got plans and vision and dreams for the north of the city, and things that we want to see take place. And we know they're only possible through Rise and Build and through the funding and finance that can be unlocked. So we're grateful for that. And so we just want to just celebrate that, but also believe this Sunday as we gather to give thanks to God, as we praise him, we're also sowing into something of the dreams and the vision that God has given us for the year and the years ahead. And so I'm looking forward to Sunday.
That's brilliant. John, Judy and Paul, thank you so much for your inspiration with us and to us today. So Rise and Build Sunday is this Sunday. We'd love you to connect to the service at 10:30 in the morning. You can connect through our website, live.ourlivechurch.org.uk. You can also connect through YouTube. And we're in for a brilliant service this week. So many contributions from people across the life of the church. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful service. And can I also encourage you, as our final statement today, to head over to our website, alivechurch.org.uk/rise and build. And on that page, you can see all the ways that we as a church can partner together through this year's Rise and Build celebration, our year of Thanksgiving. Let's do something wonderful this weekend and over these next few days. Thank you so much for joining with us, and be blessed. We'll see you on Sunday morning.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.